Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am Caleb Duarte. I am joined by Brian Mohr. Brian, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Caleb, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Excited. A video interview for the TEDx preview event. I am so excited to get into this. Well, Brian, let's just jump right into it.
Yeah.
Who is Brian Mohr?
Who is Brian Mohr? That's a great question, and I will answer it, and I will say the things that matter to Brian Mohr most that I think define Brian Mohr are being a devoted husband to my wife, Jackie. Coming up at the end of February, we will be celebrating 20 years of marriage.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And also the father to my two wonderful, beautiful daughters, my oldest Taylor, who is 14, and my youngest Riley, who is 12.
High school coming up.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
No. You had to bring that up.
I did.
Two daughters, and yeah, I'm not sure that I'm equipped for any of what is about to come, and that freight train is rolling down the tracks at a high speed.
And you can't stop it.
No.
And you can't stop it.
No. And I grew up with two younger brothers, and so I have really no concept whatsoever of what sort of I'm in store for. I remember how I was in high
changes
school.
things. You have no idea. Yeah, well, two guys, you just throw them out in a park. And
Totally, you're fine. They're guys. Whatever, they'll fend for themselves. Maybe get in a fight here or there, but other than that, you know.
Okay, well, with two girls, a daily life for Brian, you get home from work, obviously, you're exhausted, but they want to do what? What's the thing they want to do with Brian?
Actually, they want nothing to do with Brian.
That's the 14-year-old.
Yeah, that's the 14.
That's the difference between the guys and girls.
You know, it's interesting. Birth order in this scenario actually holds very true. There's lots of books been written about it. You know, the oldest child typically tends to be kind of the rule follower. They want to please.
That's how it was with me. I have an older sister.
Okay,
Completely.
great. Yep, I was the oldest of three. I think safe to say I was probably more of the rule follower, people pleaser.
So you're the oldest?
I am the oldest.
Three
Yep,
brothers.
oldest of three boys. My youngest, also following birth order, being a bit more rebellious, wanting to march to the beat of her own drum. When I get home from work, my oldest still enjoys seeing me. And not that my youngest doesn't, but if I'd like to see my youngest, I must go see her.
Naturally.
She won't come
Naturally.
see me. My oldest will race out to, come say hi, give me a hug. It's great to see me. Not my youngest. My youngest, we play life on her terms.
Well, you said rule follower then.
Yeah.
We mentioned high school a few moments ago.
Yep.
In high school, do you think that will stick the same? Because I say that, because my older sister was the rule follower. She got straight A's.
Yep.
I cared nothing about grades. I was the baby of the family. I mean, I did. Mom, if you're listening, I did care. However, though, in high school coming up, you're 14-year-old.
Yep.
What do you think of high school and all that?
Well, so there's an interesting dynamic that is happening. For the first 13 and a half of her 14 years of life, she's been attending a Montessori school.
Okay.
And that actually, I wish I could say that my wife and I had some clairvoyance where we knew that this was going to be the right way for her in particular. We actually chose this particular school really out of convenience. It was on the way to work, and they had really good daycare. Starting at a relatively young age when she was about 6 months old. In the long run, it's been the greatest place for her. Very small classrooms, very small teacher-to-student ratio, as you might imagine, and the Montessori method is very, very different than, I guess, a more traditional method.
What is the Montessori method?
So the Montessori method, I think the easiest way to sum up the Montessori method is the education really is tailored to the individual needs and desires and dreams of the student. So as much as there is some level of standardization, the classroom is set up in a way, and the curriculum is set up, and just the general agenda of a day is set up in a way where the student is really in charge of their own education, with teachers there to guide and of course to teach. But different from, I think, how I went to school, which was sit at a desk, teacher at the front, blackboard, this sort of like.
You kind of get what you're told. And
Exactly. Where Montessori is much more exploratory.
Okay.
And the kids are really allowed to figure out what their passions and interests are, as opposed to, a one-way method of teaching. So, as it relates to high school, to answer your question, I don't even know what we're in store for.
Is she going to continue into that?
The classroom size for the Montessori at this particular school for the high school ages is so small. I think there's maybe 5, maybe 10 kids in the whole, in 9 through 12.
Dang.
And we don't want to rob her of the high school experience.
Yeah.
And so we're figuring out what high school is she going to go to. So it's going to be,
decisions.
It's
Big
huge.
decisions.
It's huge. She's longing for it. And as much as I don't like to admit it, I think it's more for the boy options that she hasn't had for the last 14 years. So
That's
yeah,
funny.
that whole dating thing is.
It's coming up. Well, do you
It's
have your
coming.
speech ready? Of what would you say? Your first day. What's your speech?
To her about dating boys?
To the boy.
To the boy.
Oh, now we got serious.
God. Caleb, that's a great question. I don't. I'm not ready. I think I'm playing denial right now. Honestly, I don't want any part of this. My best thought, given how unprepared I am for that question, is that I need to find someone who can pretend to be my friend who also happens to be a police officer to actually answer the door. The first time the boy comes over, I'll simply wait in the bedroom or in the family room and allow the police officer, fully uniformed, to greet the young man, so that whomever this young man is realizes that should he decide to make any poor choices, there might be some drastic consequences as a result of that. That's the best I've got right now.
I am excited in 5 years from now to hear how that went.
Me
Now,
too.
Brian, I want to transition into, you kind of talked about yourself as Brian as a dad.
Yep.
Brian as, who's Brian, the professional version?
So the professional version of Brian Mohr, I would simply describe as a conscious capitalist. I believe in the power of business, and I believe that nothing that the human race has ever created, more than business. Business has helped do more for the human race than any other socioeconomic system that we have ever discovered, created in the history of mankind. And I love what business does for people. It gives people a sense of purpose. It gives people a community of preferably like-minded, like-valued people to spend time with, working on something that serves customers, serves clients, serves the community. And I love the power of capitalism when it is leveraged in a way that looks long-term, not short-term, and looks to benefit the entire stakeholder ecosystem that every business is reliant upon in order for it to do what it does, not just privileging, for example, the investors or the shareholders of the business at the expense of the other stakeholders. So I would describe myself as a conscious capitalist. I would describe myself as someone that believes in the power of business, and someone that loves inspiring and motivating groups of people to pursue their dreams and make a real meaningful difference in the world.
Well, Brian, you said you were a conscious capitalism. That's kind of who you are as the business Brian, kind of what you represent.
Yep.
Kind of taking that as conscious capitalism, what you represent and all that. How can you take that mentality and what you believe and what you stand for and kind of see that influence into other companies and see results from that perspective and kind of had your fingerprints all over the businesses and other opportunities?
It's a great question, and I think so much of it ties to the way organizations are being led today, and it really hovers around leadership. I think most people would agree that an organization attempting to evolve, to adapt, to create a new future will only be as successful as the leaders take them. And if the leaders aren't leaning into learning, leading into adaptation, leading into innovation, leading into creativity, it's going to be really, really difficult for a business to go anywhere, frankly. And I think leadership has changed so significantly over the past many, many decades.
But do you think that's where our society should be headed? Just
I absolutely do.
Okay.
Totally, 100%. I mean, the idea, I'll ask you, do you need a boss? Do you want a boss? Like, just the whole term boss.
No, got it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the easy answer for me is no. I mean, I think nobody likes the idea of how, I think people like the idea of being a boss versus, and then actually on that point, some people don't want that. They're scared of that because then not only are you responsible for your own actions, but now if
responsible for the actions
me,
of others.
they don't get it done now. Now my butt's on the line.
Well, and I think also just in terms of the whole notion of boss leadership, management, so few people who have been elevated into the role of being responsible for the livelihood of teammates are ill-equipped to actually know how to do that job, right? I mean, so much of, I think, the way businesses grow is we promote oftentimes our best individual contributors of a particular function into the role of manager or into the role of leader. And the very thing that they were great at, whether it was marketing or sales or accounting, whatever it was, whatever their function was, promoting them to that next level up so that now they are responsible for the other people. Oftentimes that comes with a whole change of what the job actually is, but they're not given the tools, the resources, or the guidance of what that change really is all about, or what's expected of them, and they attempt to, probably through no fault of their own, lead the same way they operated as an individual contributor, by doing as opposed to by leading. And it's a different job. And if we're not giving people the way to do it, or the expectations of, okay, you know, Jim, Jennifer, whatever your name is, you were great doing the job. Now we need you to rise up and be great at helping other people do the job. You're no longer responsible for doing that job. Your team is, and you need to be responsible for helping them get great at whatever the job happens to be.
Well, I'm very excited to hear the rest of your talk. This has been Brian Mohr talking about his TEDx preview, February 22nd. Last word, why should they come and hear Brian Mohr?
Well, I think there's going to be 7 other individuals, 5 speakers and 2 performers, in addition to myself. So I think the community here in Greater Phoenix, as well as throughout the state and perhaps the Southwest, should come out to this event. GCU is an unbelievable success story in and of itself of what's happening here, and the revitalization of this whole area is just, it's unbelievable. The event itself and my talk, and the talk of the other speakers, I think the team here at TEDxGCU has done an amazing job curating through, I can only imagine, a whole host of folks that have risen their hand to say, I'd like to come talk, and I feel honored to have been selected, and that is a responsibility I take very seriously. And I do believe, at the risk of sounding overly confident, that the message of this human connection is a timely one. And I think a lot of people are longing for it. We love our technology, and at the same time, I think we are all starting to feel, well, this is getting like Terminator-like, is the rise of the cyborgs coming. And so I think it's timely, and I think it'll be a lot of fun.
That's good. Well, Brian, we are very grateful for you coming, and we are excited to hear you February 22nd, TEDx. Again, it's Brian Mohr, and we will see you February 22nd.